Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a hunting slingshot. It's going to be the same design as this, but this one was just a prototype. It's not very nice looking or anything, and it's going to be varnished to look really nice. This is an update on an old video that I made of how to make a slingshot, but the other video wasn't very good. So what you're going to need to make this slingshot is some wood. I've got 18mm plywood. I'd suggest plywood, which is got 5 layers, and I'd suggest also 18mm thick. Some safety goggles for when you're using the power tools, a good powered drill with some spade drill bits. Also, you're going to need a jigsaw and a wood cutting jigsaw bit. As well as that, you're going to need some TheraBand. I'm using TheraBand black, but I suggest TheraBand gold because it's the strongest. It's just I don't have any left at the moment. And also, you're going to need some really thick leather for the pouch. So if you've got all of that, you want to make your template. I made this on a program on the computer called Inkscape, but you can use whatever you like. You can just draw it out if you want, and then I cut it out. So then what I've done is I've drawn the template onto the plywood, and then where there's any sharp corners like this, I've used the spade drill bit to cut it out. So now I'm going to want to use the jigsaw to cut out the rough shape of the slingshot. Right, so now I've got everything cut out and it's pretty much symmetrical. I'm going to move on to the next step. So I'm going to be filing now, and I'll just be having it in the vise here. So with this slingshot, when I just hold it, I can feel which edges are sharp and which bits need to be filed the most. So I'm going to work from the bottom up. So I've just got all of this bottom part done from here downwards, and it looks really nice and it feels really nice from here downwards. So I want to do these bits where my fingers go and then do the top bit and make it look really nice. So once you've got it all filed down really nice and it feels really nice to hold and it's solid, and when you push against it, it feels really natural, you want to sand or file these edges so they're round. I'm going to be filing them because that's how the bands are going to attach. Right, so now I'm going to be going over some of the curves with some sandpaper, and then I'm going to gradually get finer and finer and finer until I get to 400 grit. Right, so now I've got everything sanded down to 400 grit, I need to put in the grooves for the bands. So I'm just going to be using this small file working circular file. So that's this side done, and as you can see, the file marks go all the way around and they're half the file deep, so I need to do them on the other side as well. So now that I've sanded everything down, the next step is optional. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be spraying it with some Chaos Black spray paint, and then I'm going to be varnishing it, but you don't have to do this. You can just skip to attaching the bands right now and it'll still be a perfectly fine slingshot. Right, so now that the spray paint has dried and everything's all black, it's time to varnish it. I'm using clear varnish, and I'm going to be using cotton wool buds to put it on because I can't be bothered to use a brush and then clean it. Right, so now that the varnish is all finished drying on the slingshot, I'm going to start attaching the bands. But before you start attaching the bands, you need to make the pouch. And I'm going to be making my pouch out of some thick leather that I got off an old boot. So I've very faintly drawn on the design in a red Sharpie onto the leather. I'm not quite sure if you can see it, but I just copied the design of another slingshot that I made in the past. I'll just be cutting it out with these sharp scissors. So now I've made a kind of rough square. I just want to trim the edges. So I've marked on just here the places where I'm going to punch holes. I always like to have a hole punched in the middle, just for where the ball's going to go, and then the two bits on the edges where the bands are going to attach. So I'm going to be using this hole punching tool right here, which you just hit on the back with a hammer and then it punches the hole, because it's quite sharp there. And I'm going to be doing it on a plastic cutting board, just so that it doesn't like damage the tip or anything. Now it's time to attach the bands to the pouch and the slingshot. The bands that I'm going to be using is going to be TheartofWeapons black, but obviously I much prefer TheartofWeapons gold, but I currently don't have any. So I'm going to be attaching the bands the exact same way the Gamekeeper John does. So I'll put a link right here, and there'll also be one in the description. So I'm not actually going to show me attaching the bands because there won't be much point. Just watch his video. Right, so I finished attaching the bands on this slingshot using Gamekeeper John's method. I really hope you checked out his video, so let's see how this shoots. So I'm just going to be firing some 12mm steel ball bearings at various objects. This is the impact right here that it did on the piece of wood. So overall, I'm very, very happy with this slingshot. I hope you can make one too successfully. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Also, if there's anything that you'd like me to make in a future project, just post a comment on one of my videos or just personal message me.